Aloha, let's make our one pot beef and potato stew. Now, for a second course, this is really a good way to go. Now, to a hot pot of oil, we are going to dump in our spices and fry it for about 3 to 5 minutes. This way, you're ensuring that the flavor of your stew is intensified, almost like you cooked your stew for 5 hours as opposed to like a 60-90 minutes cook. Now, you fry this up for about 3 minutes before you add your onions. Now the onions are going to be cooked for 2 minutes, just till they soften, not till they get translucent, since we are still going to cook things for a long time. Now to our onion and spice, we are going to add our crushed ginger and garlic. If you have some ginger and garlic paste, you could substitute that instead of using the raw ginger and cutting up your garlic. But if you don't, the measurements are in your recipe card. After I have cooked down my onion and garlic, I'm going to add my tomato and pepper mix. This I'm just going to watch carefully to make sure it doesn't get stuck to the bottom of my pan, because we do not want to have that rancid taste of burnt tomatoes. Now I'm going to have this cook for about 3 to 5 minutes, making sure that the water in my tomatoes have completely dried up. When I'm certain of this, I add my beef. Now I have thoroughly cleaned and washed my beef. Now I am just coating my beef in my tomato mix, making sure that it is thoroughly coated. And the smells coming out of my kitchen at this point, like, so wonderful. The garlic is cooking, and tomatoes and pepper and everything is just cooking. But here you see that I'm constantly stirring, because I'm trying to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pot. That is why I insist that you cook it on really low heat. You do not want burnt food. It's way too early in your cook to be burning your meat or burning your spice and your flavors. So we just let our meat sit in this mixture for about 5 to 10 minutes. And now I add in my gelatinous stock. Now basically gelatinous stock is gotten by keeping your regular stock in the fridge or freezer, and having that gelatinous body form on the top. But if you do not have stock that you have kept in your fridge or in your freezer, you could just use ice. The reason for adding the gelatinous stock is the coldness of the liquid would shock your beef and make sure it cooks through without getting tough. So ice will work as well. Just don't forget to spice it and check for salt. Now while my beef has cooked till it's almost cooked through, I'll add in my potatoes. Now I've cut my potatoes in quarters, but you can cut it smaller. I just do this because it is convenient for me to have my potatoes and my meat look almost the same when they're done cooking, so that way each bite is a mouthful. So I leave this to simmer for a couple of minutes, and here you see that it's completely covered in the spices. I'll add the water here so that I can close my beef and potato stew. Now as this has simmered for about 15 to 20 minutes, my potatoes are already cooked. You can see here I'm going to introduce my vegetables. Again, this is a random rough chop. You don't need to be very particular. That's why I enjoy stews. They cook through, and you don't need to make sure your carrots are cut in circles or your beans are in squares. Be very comfortable with your cut and with your cook. See why I enjoy one pot meals. We're almost done and we've only used up one pot. So here I introduce the cabbage, and I make sure the cabbage is the last thing I add, and I'll just let that steam for about 2 minutes. Nothing so much. Now I am turning and stirring to make sure that it's not sticking to the bottom of my pot. And you're almost done with your cook. There's only one last thing to do, and which is to add our coconut milk and let this simmer for about 5 minutes to soften. This looks so good, like so yum. I really enjoy how easy this stew is to put together. My veggies have softened now, and the stew is looking so good. Now when you're done adding your coconut milk and cornstarch mixture, you're going to want to let this simmer for about 3 minutes to remove that raw taste of coconut milk and cornstarch, and just allow the flavor of the milk lend a very creamy texture to your stew. And you could just finish this with some fresh herbs and spring onions and serve. While I enjoy having this stew on its own, just a very heaping, huge bowl of beef and vegetables and meat that is super, super soft. There's nothing wrong with pairing this with some carbs as well. So you could boil some rice and you could also boil some pasta. I haven't had it with yam, but I'm pretty sure it could work as well. So you could serve it with any of the carbs, and it's still going to make for a beautiful addition to your dinner table. A quick way to have a hearty and wholesome stew. I'll just finish up my plate with a healthy serving of spring onions and fresh herbs to garnish it with. Don't forget to tell me how it went, if it went wrong, if it went right, what you enjoyed this with, how you paired it, and how you served it up. And there you have it. Bougie's one pot beef and potato stew. Just a bowl of yum. Bye.